Can you hear it now? Can you see anything?
I don't see anything.
Well, let's assume it's working.
Yeah, that's fine.
And we'll go from there, right? Hey guys, do you know as far as your mic where it shows if it's working?
On that?
Yeah.
First down, line game 40, plays open.
There should be like a headphone in there. Is it not working, or you don't know?
There's not a. I don't think he had a headphone.
Do you have a radio? I can go ask Andy, but do you have a radio on you?
I do not, but all tournament does.
Can you ask Andy?
So we've got the mic, but does it work? Yeah.
Yeah, to see if they have
Earpiece to see if it.
mic is working. A good lateral long did not be
Microphone for the field for microphone for the field for camera to see if the microphone is working.
Balls away.
Good balls away. As head ref, let's make sure we try to keep our 7 and 7 throughout the play.
Andy said there is not. It should work.
Okay. We'll assume it is working. We don't have this kind of technology, so I'm always eerie. I'm like, ooh, am I doing it right? Minute in.
Hey, who's done? One of the girls on the right side. Tara! No clap, yeah. First step. Full start. 5-yard penalty. Second down. I got 8. Second down. 20. Wait for the whistle. Wait for the whistle. Play is open. All the way. Come on, Cade.
So, that's an interesting play. Do we think we had a catch by the female there? I just want to watch that play again. That was kind of funky. Gets pulled away by a defender and tossed into the air. Quarterback catches his own throw and runs. Right? Just watch that play, see what we think about it. Where did you say it's showing on there?
Should be good.
Turnover on down. Defense, let's go. No reason to we need 2 yards.
Alright, and then have them
Downs. We got a co-rec game, guys, right? So let's make sure we're all showing open and closed every single play. Right, we're vocalizing it as head ref. We should all be showing it as well. across the board.
There's like a flag with how many balls there is.
Ball! Yes, Sid!
So Delphin, with that as back judge, I'd like to see you get to the goal line in case there is a pull close to it, rather than thinking they're a little slower and you'll be able to outrun it. Let's work to get position on the goal line so we're there for it, rather than running with that play as back judge, right? Try to get a little bit ahead of that and be able to look down the line in case there is a close play, because she did get it right after they crossed, right?
Tries for one, plays over. Ball. Kels, ball. Guys, good. 5 minutes in the first. 5 minutes in the first.
So I don't know.
First down, line to gain is 20, plays open.
Talk to Casey. We shouldn't be rushing to the end.
Yes, Sellers. There you go, Twing. Yeah! Incomplete.
Okay, Delphin, nice job, but let's stay with that play. Rather than coming in, is there any rush to get back to the play? Keep that open stance on those two players that are down, and then they can take them back to the play, right? That's an easy up one, but if there's a collision, how you doing?
Oh, I thought you were talking to me.
No. Back, Julian. I like the side straddle on that.
First and open. Less than 4 minutes in the first. Less than 4. First down.
There we go, Delphin. Appreciate you vocalizing that open, signaling that. I'd like to see the whole crew do that and mirror that, to be honest with you. Those are just little things, crew communication, keeping everybody engaged. Also, I don't know what we pre-gamed as far as flag belts, counting, if we're confirming with each other, but from what I can tell, I haven't seen that done at all yet this game.
Clear comes out that. Third down. Line to gain is at 40. Play is still open. Emily running 3. I got 8.
Okay, of course I say counting the flag belts, and then the head ref Ford, nice job. He does just say it, vocalize it. I appreciate that.
First and open.
There we go, Delphin. I just heard you count your belts too. Sean saw you with your hand signal it as well.
No. The problem is that Jesse's rushing too, so we're dropping his back.
Touchdown for
Because we're
6
rushing
is
three
good.
and we don't have one line.
Deflected to go for 1.
It's about to Jesse.
Eyes closed. Eyes closed. Eyes closed. Tries for 1. She tries closed.
I'm just saying, like, yeah, we're 10 to 6.
Hey, it's open up fast. All right. Hey, got the girl.
Yeah, Tuesday. Here, Tuesday. Here.
Hey,
Yeah, here.
oh my God!
Just put it.
Over here.
Don't chirp at him when he's running, because he hates that. You yell at him and tell him to throw it to
Right,
him.
no good. The score is 10-6.
All right, Dalphin, just a little thing. There's nothing wrong necessarily if it's really close on a sideline for you to mirror that incomplete, but I'd say that one's fairly obvious. We're not in under 2 minutes yet, anything like that. So if you're going to give a mechanic, crisp it up, but also think about situation. Do you need to do that?
I'm thinking you're wide open. If you're still running, I'll hit you. But once you say
So
here,
what do you want me to say when I'm running? Because I am wide open.
don't say anything. Just honestly, guys, don't yell at him or anything. Because everybody over here was doing it too.
Balls away.
Hey, way to be there, Emily. Right there.
So Julian, you have a collision right in front of you.
Round of the helmet.
What do you think we could
Be there, Tara. Dirty open.
No, they dropped the no chance. No, this is
Hey guys, I think we're finally setting into our routine. I see us vocalizing and mirroring as far as that goes. Good mechanics.
Balls away.
So a little thing here, Ford, you did announce it, but there is actually a mechanic as well for punting. Simple thing, just kicking your foot up just a little bit basically. Not a big deal, but it looks pretty when you do it.
Oh, yeah.
And like, the only other so small.
It's a good little thing. So Jordan Cox, our awesome GA on this game, giving a little bit of advice. He suggests using the word kick instead of punt to make sure it's understood. Similarly, like I said with that mechanic, that way there's no confusion as far as what's going on to give one team a potential advantage or not. So we got a flagpole there pretty close. My question is, was there a swipe on the far side of the field there? Underside hand. Not saying there was contact, but did anybody have a look at it? That's a good play to look at. Okay.
15 seconds.
second quarter.
So we either had a double or a triple whistle there. Let's think about how many whistles we need to have to kill the play. Just cleans up those little things. So as a crew, let's rewatch that play as well. As far as if that is an interception, if it's not, depending on the down, we have a big different situation. We had the end of the play come from the line judge clear across the field. The play happened right in front of the field judge there. Potentially, was he out of bounds when he intercepted that? Was he in bounds, right? We need to know possession there, because it could have been a fumble out of bounds, then the team retains possession versus it being an actual turnover. So that's just a good play to watch.
4 wide on that. All 4 girls should rush it.
Communication, but let's think about situationally. If it's something as simple as encroachment, do we really need to get together to talk about that, right? Once again, like I said, not a bad thing to come together, but situationally, let's save our gatherings or our huddle up for when we actually have a big impactful play where we need to do that, so we have that where it's not taking away from the game. We're maintaining our credibility because we're not huddling up every time, those types of things. We're within the 10-yard line. We should be in reverse mechanics. We did not communicate that, and we are not doing it either. Luckily, our head ref is at least on the goal line, but we should be sliding back because of where we're at on the field, right? Being aware of our situations there, making sure our crew communication is on it. Whistle there, Julian. Way to make sure that it is, but having the awareness of the spot, because it is where the clip comes undone. Dolphin, nice coming in with the vocalization that flags pulled to slow everybody and stop them to bring them back with that little bit delayed whistle. But I do like the patient whistle and mark there, Julian. It's kind of a shovel pass. He's pretty close to the line of scrimmage. I'd like to see us come up to that spot to be sure that it's a legal forward pass. because it was close, or at least it looked close from our angle over here on the sidelines. That's why we come up to where the ball was thrown to know if it is or not when we have those close type plays there. Because there is a potential illegal forward pass. That's a pretty impactful play, especially if it's something that they gain an advantage off of if it was illegal, right? We kind of talked about it a little earlier in the game as far as trying to maintain that 7-7 flowing with the play. If you're doing that and then coming up to be sure to mark your spots every time, right?
Balls away.
So the girl that just caught that ball, guys, from, I don't know if it's medical or not, right, but we should be addressing that. She definitely has a wristband on. We can see it from 40 yards away, so that's something we should be addressing, right? We can't have some preventative officiating there, being aware, right? We addressed the knots prior to the game, which I was very happy. We were actually taking bets on if you would or not, but included in that illegal equipment, we also need to address jewelry. So let's talk about bunch plays, right? When we have contact, we're both still on the sideline. Do you think we have the best view from the sideline when there's nobody within 15 yards of either of our line or field judge, and we've got maybe a yard to go to the goal, right? Let's make sure we accordion in on that. I don't even mind us not starting on the sideline on that play because we could bunch it. We know it's a bunch play, right? Everybody was within probably 3 to 5 yards of the ball. So make sure we come in so we have the best view on that. We can see if there is contact because I guarantee you there was contact on that. So seeing who initiates it, if it's legal, if it's illegal, we have the extension prior to, all those types of things are important. Goal to gain, similar situation, being aware of our bunch play possibility again here. Doesn't look like they're going to. Okay, lucked out because once again, I don't know that we were aware of that situation or the possibility of it there. Okay.
Our didn't announce that we waved it off.
So situationally there, guys, what did we have on that play? Why did we wave it off? I mean, if impact play, I'm perfectly fine with that. If you're like, oh dang, that was a quick on the draw. But we want to know and we want to review that for why we did or what happened there, right? I have no problem with us mirroring stop clock. We need to know we're under 2 minutes. Back judge, field judge, we do have penalties there. But if, especially under 2 minutes, what are we doing, right? We need to make sure we stop the clock. Let's hope that back judge stopped it, even though he didn't show the mechanic. Then White immediately called the timeout. One thing on that, let's be aware, when we know we have a jump ball, 2 players are going to be up. Let's think about our positioning. We can try to get a little bit closer to that play. I have no problem with us coming to a stop to get that still frame look, but I think we could have came in to have a little better coverage on that as well to see, because we both had 2 penalties on that. So we got illegal contact after the interception. Let's be aware of that play, just to look at it as well for funky type situation. What we think about the contact potentially on the interception. Was there anything before for a potential pass interference, either on the offense or defense, or was it purely the hold that came after the interception? Just thinking about those different types of things and breaking that play down. Did we actually have the same thing when we came in from back judge and field judge, or did we have 2 different things and we just went with one? Right, so let's think about those types of things. Completely different enforcements potentially there, right? We accepted that, so we enforced the penalty, so we definitely had the holding. But if we had the pass interference, we have to think about our enforcement for that being the previous spot. So the intercepting team would have had to decline that penalty in order to maintain possession for the interception. I am looking directly down. I think we potentially had an illegal forward pass. You were looking downfield. You did come up to the spot, but you did not look. You did not look at your cones before picking them up. That tells me you were not looking for an illegal forward pass, but I personally, from my angle, it looked like it was. So once again, that's the importance of coming up to that spot, looking at your cones, being aware, especially when he's close. You have the quarterback on this white team that is scrambling every time. He does look to come towards the line of scrimmage when he's throwing. We've had a couple plays, I think I've addressed this as far as making sure we get to that spot to be able to tell if it is an illegal forward pass or not. I'm not saying it necessarily is, but I want to make sure we're going through the process to do it, because from the sidelines here, it definitely looks very close to it. I'm fine with your judgment one way or the other, but we need to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to be able to explain and justify why it wasn't. Cleaned up a lot of the things, struggles we were having at the start of the game to make the second half even better, guys. So Julian, good awareness to see this person go down out of the play. Do we know how she got there? That is my question for y'all, because I do not, but let's be aware of that, right? That's why we have different coverage areas. We kind of talked about that at halftime as far as who was calling in which plays. If we're watching our coverage areas, we'll have a good reason or know how she got there. Thank you. One thing on that, Sean, I would like to see you, if you know that play is going to be way short, don't be afraid to take a few steps towards it as soon as the ball is released, right? It looked like there was going to be an immediate flag pull, so there's no reason, right, when there's tight coverage there, not to get a little bit closer to the play. In the game as far as vocalizing, let's think about how many yards off the line of scrimmage you're starting and then go from there, right? It's good you're pulling yourself into the game, but if we stay with the game, we don't necessarily need to pull ourselves into the game. Okay?
Say the same thing about how far.
Right. We didn't have any hard feelings, it didn't look like, but there was definitely a collision. My question for you is, if we would have dropped the ball there, would we have had a penalty? Okay, just things to think about, food for thought. Not saying one way or the other, especially in a congenial game, you can get away with not calling, which I firmly believe less is more, especially in games you don't need it. But let's be aware of that, right? Say if we had a closer game, would that be necessary to maintain control of the game and awareness and make sure it appears we are engaged? Adjustment. I appreciate you coming up to the spot where it was thrown, or at least the equivalent of it, down the field and looking at the cones to make sure. I appreciate that you making that adjustment on the fly, as we did talk about that at halftime, way to implement things immediately. Things, Julian, we had a double tweet there to end the play. We try to reserve that double tweet for when we have a penalty to draw our head ref's attention to us, so we make sure we aren't picking up the cones. So let's make sure we reserve that unless we have a situation where we have a big collision and we're trying to let everybody know we're right there. You do come up to mark that spot. That kept you engaged with that play. There wasn't a lot of contact, but that made sure that you stayed engaged with the quarterback clear through the play in case there was a collision.
Balls away!
Yeah. So I think that's a good play to look at just because of what happened on it. There's initial rush, there's a little bit of contact. I did think that one was marginal contact. Then we came back. I think she was a little flustered because she got bumped. She might have given a little bit, as well as the person rushing may have been a little bit out of control. But I think that's a good one to talk about, what we can come up as far as preventative officiating and say in those situations, that type of thing. Play as far as contact on the line, we had pass interference downfield. Let's make sure we watch that as well. Shoulder on the initial catch. I think there was contact. He definitely got his head. I don't have a problem with it. But let's think situationally compared to some of the contact we've passed on. Also, we have a catch there, right? So is that one we could hesitate just to touch on or not? I'm not saying one way or the other because he did get hit in the head, so I think it's probably a good one to clean up because those are the ones that get people riled up. But let's think about that in comparison to what we've let go on throughout the game. Our incredible GA on the camera also talks about an illegal shift potentially, so let's be aware of that. Back judge as far as open versus closed. Appreciate that. Way to be engaged and own your responsibilities. I didn't see what happened. It's on the defense. I think this will be an interesting one to watch. I just didn't get to see it, so I want to watch it. Good thing we were aware of what was going on, though. Let's keep that up. Attacked on this. We've got a defender rushing, blocker stepping out into him, the person on defense rushing, jumping through potentially, or being contacted as he dives to make the flag pull. Let's think about, possession consequence as well as who initiated the contact. Was there something there that did the defense get an advantage by initiating that contact? So, Dalphin, one other thing like that, we're starting way far away, right? We say 15 to 20 yards off. Look at how far you are. You are 25 right now, right? 25, actually, you're more than that, right? Because our X is on the 14, so you're about 30. You're about 30 yards off the line of scrimmage. You're 20 yards behind the deepest defender. You look pretty athletic, and you probably have 150 less pounds than I do, and I wouldn't take quite that big a lead. So let's be aware of that, and we can hustle when we need to, but we want to be engaged with the play, because that last one, we had a catch 10 yards in front of you that if we'd have been in proper position, I think we'd have had a better look at. Not that there was anything there to get, but that appearance and having that look if and when we need it is very important. Situationally there, Ford, let's be aware of what we're telling the offense. Are we telling them that they can't move until it's kicked, or they can't cross the line of scrimmage until it's kicked, right? It's that they can't cross the line of scrimmage, so let's make sure we're telling them properly, because that is something that could take away an advantage. You'll see a lot of teams line up and try to time that, because that momentum and the acceleration that they have, if they can be running towards the line of scrimmage at it, but not violating until after. On that play, I did not see a punch and I did not hear anything, right? Especially when it's that close. That's something that could be very impactful on the play. Sure, we're having it and letting, calling it one way or the other. to that where we didn't have the call as far as backward, being aware of if the female breaks the play and laterals it, if it is forward or backwards, we still potentially, if we did lateral it, have that legal forward pass that we could have still utilized there as well. So being aware of that is very important, because that's a big play possibility that I don't think we had a call on, and I don't know that we would have known how to deal with it if something would have happened. Sean, I don't know if you got lucky that you're just in position or that you happen to be right by the play, but I like that positioning better than I've seen on a couple plays. So good work, way to be there for that play.
Time stop.
So two things on this. Julian, I really like you coming in, saying easy up, having that present, or excuse me, Sean, coming in, having that present, saying easy up. Julian, let's see what you got. I'm assuming you have illegal contact. The question is on who? Called it on the defense. Okay, so whose responsibility for avoiding contact, right? Also, was that contact impactful on the play? Was there an advantage gained? With where it occurred, do you think you had the best look at it? Coming in information-wise, I think I'd like to see you have that conversation with Julian as far as that goes, rather than the head ref telling him. I think the two people that would have had coverage on that play should have that conversation, and I'm fine with you sticking to it, but I think that's a conversation that should happen between the two that observed the play and had shared coverage. Enforcement, or what actually was called? Hear the language as he comes off the field in that situation. Yes, they're frustrated, right? But we don't want to ignore things. That's a great opportunity for some preventative officiating, just reminding them, because the next time he says it, we aren't going to know necessarily who or why he's saying it. And then if we have to address something or penalize it, it's better that we've been able to address the stuff where it didn't have an impact. You ride on it right after the flagpole. encroachment, we wait until after the play to kill that, right? Isn't that something that we should call immediately? We kill the play, correct? Right? So think about that, know which penalties we are, how we call that, and how we throw that, right? We should throw that high into the field and get a nice loud whistle coming in immediately, killing that play so nothing funky happens on a play. That clearly showed it. Sean, on that, let's think about our coverage, right? Yes, you do have the zone line to gain, but when you have everybody coming towards one player, that being aware of the type of player and the play, do we think we could have potentially came up to that? Just thinking about those types of things, I have no problem with you staying on the zone line to gain because that is textbook what you're supposed to do, but I like for us to work to get the best position for a particular play, right? That's going beyond what the rule book says for every single and reading what's going on in the game. The first down there, but let's be aware, zone line to gain once again, who's owning that, you're coming up to it versus field judge being on it, right? I like that you vocalize that to make it very definitive, but responsibilities, who should be doing that necessarily in that situation? In those situations where we're close to it, especially on a later down, we need to be communicating who's taking the line, and especially in co-rec as well, and not to mention, you know, this side of the field, that side of the field, 95-5, all that type of stuff, right? Things we should be talking about communicating pre-gaming. So specifics on that, Jordan's pointing out even better things like it. Line judge, co-rec, we should be staying on the line of scrimmage, right? So that should be the field judges all the way, especially in this situation. I believe that timeout came from the sideline. I did not hear it from anybody on the field. Granted, it is the quarterback who seems to be the primary person, but is he the captain? Do they have a coach? I believe there's an individual standing down here that may be the coach, but being aware of that, right? We talked about it coming from the field. If there is not a specified captain or coach, and then that it's only one or the other who's calling it from the sideline. There should only be one player calling that from the sideline. We don't have a whistle, we have a flag here. What do we have?
Through it. It looks like it's in the back.
Take pair up. Pair up. Pair up.
We have a prelim for illegal forward pass.
No, that was flag guarding.
Or flag. Oh, it was flag guarding. Okay, thank goodness.
It was illegal forward pass.
It was illegal forward pass, and that came from our field judge. Let's think about this. If we are calling illegal forward pass from field judge, what are we looking at? Should we be looking there? And two, do we actually have an awareness from where we're positioned on the field to be able to make an informed call about that in that situation? I mean, it's one thing if he's 20 yards downfield and throws a forward pass, but I don't think we actually had the angle to do that, especially from field judge. Let's think about that. Bunch play, we talked about him in the first half, being aware of positioning, how we can close in on the play. Looks like the quarterback's talking to him specifically, right, as far as what he can do. I think he may have been talking to that field judge too as far as the illegal forward pass, which rightfully so. I'd be questioning why that's coming from there or what happened on that play as well. Look at our coverage, we're still out on the sidelines, right, and we know it's a bunch play. We know it's a bunch play, right? Let's think about that. Let's come in on that, make it look a lot better. Time do we know what our overtime is? So, 21 seconds for the next 21 years of our lives, guys. A little Varsity Blues reference there for you. Andy, come on. You gotta know better than walking across the field.
He's got to get extra points for that one.
Is. Right. Awareness here, right? We had a false start with that. That's prior or immediately simultaneously with the snap, right? So there should be no time running off. We need to reset the clock if we did, being aware of that.
Way over the top.
So let's try to watch that if we can hear or see or we remember that play. We all were reiterating that it was closed, right? We all reiterated it was closed. We should blow that dead. Our head ref needs to announce that properly. We have contact on the defense, slowing the offense down because they were making a play on the ball or reading it. Was that potentially pass interference? Should we have an extension of quarter there? I want to see that play again to see what kind of contact there was there personally, right? Those are all things we should talk about.